Everyone, Ravens fans, Oriole fans, thank you for giving us the opportunity to come and to come into I want to say your living room nowadays. You never know. could be You could be watching us on your phone at work. You could be watching us on your phone anywhere in the car, anywhere else. So thank you very much for joining us today on our Ravery Sports Weekly podcast. So thank you very much for joining us today. Also, too, joining us as well, ravorisports.company.site. So definitely, if you want merchandise like the Jim Palmer shirt that I'm rocking that's on the site, you can definitely get information like that. You can definitely get things like that. We got Lamar jerseys. We got Ray Lewis jerseys. We have Joe Flacco jerseys if you want that as well. We have Orioles t-shirts. We have a Mount Cashel t-shirt. We have hats. We have all type of stuff on there. So definitely want to go into the new year looking at Ravens, Orioles stuff. We're in Orioles off season here. So, hey, you want to go out and buy some stuff for opening day here, about 90 plus days away. Definitely check us out, ravorisports.company.site. Best of 2023 is going to be on New Year's Eve. Big announcement about Ravery Sports on the broadcast. We're going to go over all the information for 2023 as far as Baltimore sports. We're going to talk a little best of who is the best Raven, who is the best Oriole, who is the best Terps player, basketball and football, who's the best player in MLB, NBA, etc. So we're going to go over that best of 2023 as well. Genesis Notary Services. If you live in the Shenandoah Valley area, definitely we will go ahead and square that away. You can book right on the website, Facebook, or you could go to Google and do it. Google Genesis Notary Services, Winchester, Virginia, and you could go on there and book time. We will come out, do your documents with care. In fact, all of you that have already called. All right. A lot to get to today, a lot happening. And I'm sure we're still a little giddy over the events of Monday night, where as the Ravens as a 6-point underdog on the road, they went ahead in Santa Clara, and they rolled San Fran. That was 33-19. And the score, in my opinion, isn't really even indicative of what actually happened. This was not close. I thought they got a few points in like garbage time. I thought the Ravens played a little prevent just for them to run the clock, and it was over. Ravens were successful 33-19 in Santa Clara over the 49ers. Lamar, I don't know what to say to you if you're not convinced that's the best player in the league, if that was an MVP level performance. I don't know what to say to you at this point. 23 of 35, 252, 2 TDs, 7 yards, 7 rushes, 45. The 30-yard run was maybe the best run in the league all season. If you're saying other things at this point, I don't know what to say to you. There's no other quarterback better than Lamar this season. None. There's no such thing. Like, I'll hear the McCaffrey argument and Tyreek Hill. That's it. There's nobody else. These guys, Lamar, I think, should win the MVP after that performance. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, he went into the best team in the league, what we thought was the best team in the league, went on the road and just chopped them up. I don't know what to. I don't know what Richard Sherman and a lot of these guys in Florida. I don't know what's wrong with you at this point. If you can't say Florida, at least did apologize. Him and Lamar have had a thing going all since off season. That was part of that as well. But yeah, that was MVP stuff. There was no question about it. Gus Edwards, he's going to be your main ball carrier now without Keaton Mitchell for sure. 9 carries for 31, 1 TD. One of the reasons why Lamar is not doesn't have the TD passes that he had in recent years is they're using Gus Edwards at the goal line. I think that was 12 TDs for him. So outstanding stuff by Gus. Gus is short. This is exactly what you need, guy. Short yardage, in tight space. This is a guy that you want. Gus Edwards is doing it. Zay Flowers is still developing. I don't think he gets to 1,000 yards. I think he gets like 850, 860, something like that. For the year, he's got 2 more games. Not bad for a rookie. Not bad at all. 9 catches, 9 receptions, 72 yards. I think he definitely was the best receiver out there. This was the first game I thought I saw them where they really were trying to get the ball to Zay Flowers in different situations, not just the bubble screens, etc. They were really trying to look for him downfield above the other receivers. He was treated more like a number 1 receiver in this game. That's saying a lot. So that was pretty good stuff for Zay Flowers. Kyle Hamilton, man, oh man, Kyle Hamilton. He is really stealing the show here the last few weeks. Been fantastic. 2 interceptions. Kyle Hamilton in these last 2 games, all over the field. All over the field. I don't know. I don't know about Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know about that yet. But All Pro, no question. No question from Kyle Hamilton. Got his hands up. I mean, he could do it so many ways. I mentioned this in the postgame. Watching Ed Reed dominate for so many years, this looks a little different, but it's still just at the line of scrimmage, batting the ball down, so many different ways. It's kind of like almost a parable like Lamar, like you don't even know where to put it in a way, like because you haven't seen a guy do this. Like it's crazy. Great stuff by Kyle Hamilton. Brock Purdy. Nobody said he was benched. I did. When you are healthy enough to go back in and you were taken out, and that's exactly what happened. Now, that said, I don't think going forward they're going to keep doing that. But I understand it. He had 4 picks. Brock Purdy wasn't good in this game. Brock Purdy wasn't good. The Ravens obviously saw something on him. I thought he was the leader. I believe he was the leader going into MVP of this game. That's over with now. Clearly, he was outplayed by Lamar Jackson in this one. You can't do that. You can't have 4 interceptions. He basically took him out of the game as well. I don't think they're too worried in San Fran. So everybody has bad games. Lamar had a game, 4 picks before in Cleveland. So it's not, I don't think it's the end of the world for Brock Purdy, but I think it's the end of the MVP run. Just wasn't good as well. Ravens defense really got to him. This really shows you how good the Ravens defense is in this one. Christian McCaffrey, if you still want to put him in the MVP race, I got no problem with that. He was good. 14 carries, 103 yards, 1 TD. I thought he was pretty good in this game. He breaks off these long runs consistently, kind of like Barry Sanders used to. So you think you have him contained for a half or a quarter, and then, okay, he's got 37 yards. He's got 38 yards. That's how McCaffrey is. Lots of production without having to touch the ball a lot. A coach would love that. You're getting, every time he's getting it, he's getting massive catches. Kind of forgot about George Kittle in the midst of all this, considering all the talent they have. He was their best. He had their best night. 7 receptions, 126, 1 TD. I thought he was fantastic in this one. Kittle's really good. Kittle, as long as he's healthy, he really runs over people, really physical at the point of attack. Definitely top 5 every year, if not top 3 as far as tight ends in the league. Probably him, Kelsey, and Mark Andrews are in the top as far as the league. Not a particularly good night for the 49ers defense, I thought. I thought, considering how good they've been all year, not great for them. Lamar seemed to figure them out a little bit, in my opinion. Kind of stepped up in the pocket. He was able to stay away from Nick Bosa. There was a couple sacks, there were kind of coverage sacks. You know, he stayed in the pocket too long, kind of held him. Joan Hargrave got one of them. I thought the linebackers were kind of missing tackles. A bit surprising how Lamar pretty much had their way with them. Had their way with those guys as well. Not a good night for the 49ers. And the 49ers, in hand, I think they're probably the best defense in the NFC. And that sold me on how good Lamar was in this game. So 33-19. I definitely put Lamar for MVP on the website. I don't think I'm still surprised people are saying anything else. The Richard Shermans, the Shannon show. I don't get you guys. I don't know what you're looking at. I think if you're just gonna hang your head on the stats, I don't really understand it. I always in any sport, what is true, the best player on the best team is a MVP candidate. Okay, if you're on a different team and your stats aren't as good or whatever, you don't win as many games, then I'll hear it if it's blow-away stats. So that's why I think the quarterbacks are out. A lot of the quarterbacks, in my opinion, have double-digit. I looked at it, have double-digit picks. Almost all of them now, including Brock Purdy. The only one you can really say with 30 touchdowns plus touchdowns and less than 10 interceptions is Dak Prescott. And I wouldn't say Dak Prescott is the MVP over Lamar Jackson. So I was surprised to hear that this week. So 49ers lose over the Rams. I think in the grand scheme of things, I kind of mentioned it. This is more of a Super Bowl preview. I think these are the two best teams in each conference, so they may see each other. Good chance for each team to scout each other. I think this one is important here. This is the biggest game of the two in terms of a lot of reasons. So this Ravens victory, if you get the victory on Sunday, it huge going forward. So if you win Sunday against Miami, then that means that you will have clinched the number one seed, and the game next week against the Steelers, the Squealers won't matter. Okay? So it'll be all over by then, and the Ravens will have clinched the number one seed. If you lose, if the Dolphins win, the Dolphins will be in quote-unquote driver's seat. The Ravens are one win ahead, but essentially the Dolphins, they can win the next 2 weeks and take it from the Ravens. So however, obviously they have to beat the Ravens, and next week they're going into Buffalo and play, who's also playing for playoffs. So they have tough games as well. So interesting to see what happens the next 2 weeks. All right. The MVP leader, as far as I'm concerned, you could call that purple colored glasses. You could call it anything you want. It's this guy, Lamar Jackson. No question about it. That was fantastic what we saw. He should win his second MVP. 335, 33, 57, 19 TDs, 7 interceptions. I was shocked that it just isn't unanimous at this point. That there were more people, not just. I was really in shock. I mean, I was really in shock. That was an MVP level performance if I ever saw one. But again, I don't get it. But he was outstanding. Lamar's been outstanding. Clearly the best player in the league this season. Gus Edwards, 12 touchdowns for Gus Edwards. The Ravens over recent years have been so fortunate to have Gus Edwards. So fortunate. I mean that. I mean, definitely he's a guy supposed to be a backup, possibly could start on another team, stayed with the Ravens, signed with pretty much a lesser deal to get the stability. And he's been 12 TCs. That's how he's rewarding you for that. Definitely great in the short yardage. Definitely great in spurts. Fits well with Lamar. Hey, look, played with Lamar his whole career. They came in the league, I think it was the same year together. Outstanding stuff for Gus Edwards. I think Gus will definitely be back next year. Outstanding. He's definitely been your best runner. To have a Gus Edwards there is one of the reasons why when you have a J.K. Dobbins get hurt, when you have a Keaton Mitchell get hurt, that you're able to go ahead and win games. Zay Flowers was treated, excuse me, Zay Flowers was treated like the number one receiver in the last game, and it showed. It absolutely did. 752, 4 touchdown passes for Zay. I think that's what they're going to do in the playoffs, too, going forward. Odell is still there. Aguilar is making one crucial catch every game. Shout out Nelson Aguilar. Bateman, I thought, had a couple catches. He had a key drop, but Isaiah liked it. So they're going to spread the ball around. I think this is going to be more the guy of what you're seeing going forward. Kyle Hamilton, man. Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Fantastic. This guy. It's going to be so key against Tyreek Hill. I think that's where his emphasis is going to be. They are going to not forget last year's debacle losing to Miami in week 2. They're going to remember this, where Tyreek Hill, where he took apart Pepe Williams and Justin Armour-Davis. They're not forgetting that. This is, I mean, obviously there's a lot on the line in this game, but they're not going to forget that as well. They are going to be ready. Mike McDonald, young coordinator, first couple games, didn't know what to do with Tyreek Hill. I think you are going to be ready for Tyreek Hill in this one. And this is the biggest reason why Kyle Hamilton is going to be on defense for the Ravens. Kyle Hamilton and Matabuke have really been outstanding. And not that the other two guys, I think in the first half, Roquan and Patrick Queen haven't been. They were outstanding. Patrick Queen was outstanding in the 49ers game, I thought. Excellent. His tackling has improved so much. Outstanding stuff from him. Tua Tagovailoa, brother of Maryland Terps quarterback Talia Tagovailoa. We're going to get to him as well. 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. Outstanding year. This is much better than I thought he'd do this year. I was really surprised. I really thought that he would miss games. One thing he has shown, regardless of what happens from here on out, he can play for a whole season. This is the first year I've seen, even at Alabama, as good as he was kind of always bagged up, kind of in and out of the lineup. Hey, he's played the whole season, been productive. He's going to get 4,000 yards passing, plus it looks like as well. Outstanding stuff for him. Great season for him. I think he's become more of a game man. I think there is a drop-off without Tyreek Hill for him, but I think that's any quarterback. I think that's any quarterback. He's been really good. I really, really outstanding season for him as well. I think if there is another quarterback in the conversation, I'll hear to Tagovailoa. I'll hear that one. I don't think he's been good as Lamar, but I'll be in that conversation as well. Him. Raheem Mostert, so many years starting for the Niners, 18 touchdowns. That is right. Killing the game on the ground with the TD. So definitely they're running the ball effectively, getting the ball in the end zone. This is a very good team all season long. Miami's offense has been fantastic as well. So they have been really effective. Mostert, here's another guy too. Keep him healthy. He's always been so productive. You know, he kind of had a lot of injuries with the 49ers as well. He kind of fell out of favor when they brought in McCaffrey. So in Miami, definitely good stuff here, taking advantage of the opportunity here at Mostert as well. This is a beast of its own kind. Tyreek Hill. Unbelievable, this guy. I don't think he's going to get to 2,000 yards with the defense he's playing the last 2 weeks. And he had an injury. He missed a couple games. I think had he played, I think he would have got it. Tyreek Hill is unbelievable. Tyreek Hill, I think, single-handedly torched the Ravens last season. No two ways about it. If you do not scheme him, if you do not do everything like this, John Harbaugh, everything is involved this week. Is on a short week, going ahead and figuring out how to stop Tyreek Hill. That's the thing. You're going to beat these guys. You want to beat Miami. You want to stop Tyreek Hill on offense. You got to slow him down. It is so tough to do. He glides up in so many spots, runs the whole, they'll line him up at running back. They'll line him up kind of like what we saw with Deebo Samuel on steroids, even more with that. So keep that in mind. The defense didn't surprise me. It got better when this guy showed up, Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey, I think there's a little slippage in my opinion. He's still a top 5 cornerback in the league. Jalen Ramsey, you could put him on whoever it is. They're not going to catch a lot of balls. I expect the Ravens with Jalen Ramsey and Xavier Howard on the outside. You see a lot of Isaiah Likely, Zay Flowers, and a lot of these bubble screens and things like that. A lot of motion for him. I think that's what you're going to do. I think definitely strategy-wise, they're going to want to stay away from these corners that the Dolphins have. Their defense was like 20th in the league or something like that in terms of all season long, 20. And then when Jalen Ramsey showed up, it was much better, much better. The defense is much better as far as their defense output with Jalen Ramsey showed up. 3 interceptions, outstanding guy here, Jalen Ramsey. Even if he is maybe somewhat past his prime a little bit, but he's a tough assignment for the receivers on Sunday. X Factor, the league MVP, Lamar. How was that last week? Does he have enough in the tank for this week? Definitely. This is a bigger, more important game. I think that one was a big game. But even with the result here, this is what they have to have this week. So can Lamar lead them, take them all the way? They need to go in this huge game for the leadership of the AFC. It'll be one of these two teams. I think Kansas City losing, Jacksonville losing. I think the only other team that can possibly even get the number 1 seed is Cleveland at this point. And that's only if the Ravens were to lose both games. I think then Cleveland would actually get it. This guy is going to be huge in this one. First of all, Brandon Stevens has been tremendous all year long. I think this is – I haven't watched every team and every down and every cornerback, but if somebody's been better than Brandon Stevens, I can't remember anything going over his head all season. I can't remember a guy getting way in front, behind him or anything. Very few penalties even. He got one last week. I thought it was kind of bogus. He's been fabulous. I think this is why you can contain a Tyreek Hill, because you have a Brandon Stevens playing as well as he's playing. Humphrey has turned around as well. Ravens will go ahead, clinch. Nothing wrong with that. 34-31. I think they win this football game. I think they actually go ahead and beat the Dolphins. I think this will be this will be close. Because the Dolphins are going to score. I suspect they do well against Tyreek Hill for like a half or a quarter or something. You're not going to stop him a whole game. So they're going to get some points in this one. Their offense is undeniable as well. As good as our defense is, I think there's no question about it. I think the Ravens do clinch, however, and become the number 1 seed. We will see how they play against the Squealers. If you win, that game really doesn't matter at all. Interesting to see how they handle it this time around. I think they play games. I think they actually are going to play starters in this one as opposed to that other one where they didn't play any. That's putting the cart before the horse, as the old timers would say a little bit. But I do think I do think they're going to play a little bit in that last game to knock some of the rust off with the number 1 seed, because you're not going to be playing for 2 weeks. So I do think they handle it a little bit. We will see on that. So great stuff. Outstanding victory against the Niners. One of the highest rated games ever, too, in the history of Monday Night Football. And that's saying something. Monday Night Football has been around a very long time. To go ahead and get that squared away. All right, Big Five. All right, 5 biggest games on the schedule that are, oh goodness, that are not Raven games. So 5 biggest games on the schedule that are not Raven games this week. Last week with the Big 5, a lot of stuff happened. Dallas and Miami. Dallas, again, we didn't really find out anything. They lost a close game on the road. They don't play well on the road for whatever reason. Rams Rams look good over the Saints. No surprise. Rams have been really good throughout the last couple of years. So Rams actually played well. Uh, Not surprising that the Rams actually won over the Saints. Steelers over the Bengals. Uh, that surprised me a bit considering the margin of victory. Mason Rudolph really was big for them. So Bengals defense though isn't any good. I think they're maybe you're jumping up and down too much over that. But Mason's been there the whole time. I mean, so he's definitely better than Mitchell Trubisky was. Joe Flacco mania continues. How about Joe Flacco? I got no problem with fans rooting for Joe Flacco. It's hard not to. Joe Flacco was our quarterback. The quarterback situation with us was terrible. It's good to see him playing well. I just wish it was not in Cleveland. Like I just mentioned, it was it was to be too our detriment. But Flacco, feel good for Flacco playing so well down the stretch here. And Vikings, I still don't know what to make of the Vikings. All season they've had a lot of big games, a lot of tough games. 1 week they looked this way, 1 week they looked that way. 1 week the quarterback, I don't know. Mullins had like 4 interceptions. We know what the Lions are. Lions are no joke. Lions are making 2,000-yard rushers. So Lions are very good. That line they have is fantastic. I think it's the best line in the entire NFL. So definitely check that out as we go forward. Speaking of the Lions, since you brought it up. Another big game they have against Dallas. Going against these. So this is more. I was kind of all season long been going back and forth. Which of these teams are the next best teams in the NFC all season long? So some people, 49ers, despite the loss, I think they're in the one spot. They actually are in the one spot as well. Philly, most of the year, I think they've been at 2. But maybe you have Dallas at 2 or the Lions at you have Philly at 2, but most of the year maybe you have Dallas at 2 or maybe you have the Lions at 2. These are 3 and 4. So these are the 4 best teams, 2 of the 4 best teams I think in the NFC all season long. I like the Cowboys in this one. I like the Cowboys in this one. The Lions have a tremendous offensive line, tremendous talent. Cowboys are at home. Prescott plays well at home. I don't know what's going on the road. I can tell you what, you better win this game for some morale. They've had some tough games, but they keep losing these tight games, these playoff type games. It is the mark of a team that's going to go somewhere that wins games like this. Cowboys have to start doing that if they want to go ahead and do it. They have a lot of talent, too much talent. Prescott, I think, is having a great year for him. CeeDee Lamb's having a great year for him. I think some of their defensive guys, Gilmore's you got to win games like this. So I do like them in this one. So these are 2 teams I think that this one may decide the NFC South this season. So the preseason favorite, the New Orleans Saints going against the Tampa Bay Bucks. Talk this week, extending Baker in Tampa. Maybe that's not a bad idea. I thought all season, okay, the best quarterback in this division will win out, and that's Carr, Derek Carr with the Saints. Derek Carr with the Saints. The best quarterback in this division has been Baker Mayfield. Look, 8-7 isn't great. It's been good enough to win this division. I thought he's actually played much better. Then I think Carr, I think they win this game. I think the Saints still have a shot here to go ahead and pull this off. Dennis Allen is not getting the job done. They should be with some of the guys they got. You got Derek Carr. You got Chris Olave. You still have Alvin Kamara. You still have good players on defense. You still have all these guys, and you can't find a way to win a winning record. Way too inconsistent on offense. Way too inconsistent on defense. I think the Bucs have their issues, but they're playing to maximum capacity. Unlike the Saints, I like the Bucs here. I think the Bucs win the division in this game. I think if the Saints win, they still have a chance to win it. I don't think they win. I think the Bucs are going to win this division, get in the playoffs with a victory. This one is do or die for both teams. Both these teams are outside looking in as far as the playoffs go. Um, as far as the playoffs, both of these teams need a victory. Both teams, I think the losers probably eliminated. This has improves the chances of a getting in. Seahawks, um, uh, Squealers, I think, look better than they've looked forever last week. I think Mason Rudolph at least is not turning the ball over. At least is not making crucial mistakes. At least look functional. So I think he's been there. I think he's been there's a reason why he was on the bench all this time, if that makes sense. He's up and down. I think at times can he put? However, there's not a lot of time left here. So hey, can he put together 3 weeks, 2 weeks? Possible. I like the Seahawks though. I think though they've had a very difficult schedule. They've had a lot of tough games, a lot of tough losses. The schedule is very difficult. They've had to play the North, which is a tough division. Their division is a tough division. I think this is the best crowd. Usually you watch a lot of Steeler games, and there's a lot of Steelers. Not here, not this one. This is going to be a Seahawks crowd. I think this is one of the best home fields in the league. I think their defense is pretty good. I think the Steelers haven't really played well all season against a good defense offensively. I think the Seahawks actually win this game. I don't think the Steelers can come away with this one. These are two teams last year. This is a rematch of the AFC Championship last year. The Bengals against the Chiefs. I could go on and on about the Chiefs here. I'll start with the Bengals. Bengals, look, their defense isn't any good. I think they've had this problem all year long. A lot of their key guys, Hubbard's been banged up. Henderson went off the field last week with the shoulder. Reader, they've been struggling. They don't have a lot of depth. They've been banged up on defense. They're like 20th plus. They may be looking for a new coordinator in the offseason, and you don't have Joe Burrow. Brown has been good. He wasn't so good last week. I think they kind of have some issues. I think it's actually a testament that they've actually still maintained the record that they have, considering their circumstances. The Chiefs have problems. The Chiefs have real problems. I think it's so obvious that they have no receiver. It's clear. Everybody's getting on Tony. Marcus Scantlin's not giving you a thing. I haven't heard his name called at all. Kadarius Toney's not giving you anything. So I don't know why people are just on that. Mahomes, Phil Simms made a great point. Well, he doesn't trust the receivers. Well, it's not his job. Well, he's got eyes. He's not silly. They made a mistake getting rid of Zeus, Orlando Brown last year. Their tackles have struggled. Their offense is very hit and miss. Defensively, they're not bad. Here, I think the sky's falling a little bit. The Chiefs. I think the Bengals win. I really do. I really think the Bengals, for the most part, on offense, have found a way to piece it together. The Chiefs they're getting worse every week on offense. I think that's Mahomes' frustration. He can see it. These guys are not improving as they go along, so they're really they're really frustrated. And here's a team again, two teams fighting to get in the playoffs. I think the Packers and the Vikings. Both of these teams have been wildly inconsistent. A lot of questions for both of these teams going into the offseason, the Vikings and the Packers as well. It depends on which Jordan Love shows up. If Jordan Love shows up and plays well, they go ahead and win games. And when they don't, then they don't. The Vikings, I don't know who shows up. Some weeks the defense looks good. Some weeks the offense looks good. Some weekends Nick Mullins was been good. Some weeks I don't even know who's going to play quarterback for him. So I'm taking the Packers. I don't know what to think of the Vikings. I just don't. I think the Packers defense. I think they have parts around Love. I think some weeks they just don't score enough points. They just don't. So I'm taking the Packers. I think their defense goes ahead and neutralizes the Vikings. There you go. Big five. Five biggest games on the schedule that are not Raven games. Although the last 2 weeks, Ravens game would have been the best game. Insane, considering how big and important those games are. All right. So we went ahead and did the big five. Let's talk a little bit about a little bit of Maryland football here. So we got a bowl game, Music City Bowl in Nissan Stadium in Tampa. So definitely the Maryland Terps going against the Auburn Tigers. And this one won't go too deep into it as well. Good to see the Terps in a bowl game as well. So they have a chance to win 3 consecutive years in a bowl, considering all of their struggles as well. So good for them. Good for them that they're even here. Hugh Freeze is the coach of the Auburn Tigers as well. Tigers in this one are going to be first game with a new coach, first bowl game with a new coach. They're going to be making some changes for sure in the off season as well. Once this game is over, they're going to be doing obviously good recruiting class. A lot of expectation down there in Auburn. One reason to watch this game for sure, the beginning possibly of the Billy Edwards era in College Park. So Tua, I know I was going to do it. Talia Tagovailoa, probably the all-time leading passer in Maryland history. He's been the starting quarterback, is going to opt out of this game, start getting ready for the NFL draft. He is not going to play. So you're going to see Billy Edwards start in the game. He is probably next year going to be in the fight for the starting quarterback along with MJ Morris as well. You're going to see those guys battle it out for the next starting quarterback at the University of Maryland as well. So we will see how that goes. So this is a good opportunity to see maybe what the next season is going to look like at quarterback. So it'll be very interesting to see. Last chance to see guys like Bo Braid, etc. already in the bowl game. Your last chance to actually get to see them in this one as well. A lot of the seniors are going to play. Most of the guys are not opting out for either team. They're going to actually play. Tagovailoa is going to opt out as well in this one. So definitely check that out. 2 o'clock on the 30th. We're going to go ahead and check that out as well. Terps, 2 o'clock against the Auburn Tigers. So definitely we're going to go there as well. Yeah. All right, we'll leave you up there. Yeah, we'll leave you up there, but we're going to talk about this first. So let's talk about this first. We're going to shift down to college basketball a little bit more. Terps, you see on the graphic there, they got a game against the Purdue Boilermakers. Last week, we talked a little bit about UCLA, one of the blue bloods, college basketball. All the national championships they won in the 70s and the 60s and all that. So under Coach John Wooden. So they went ahead, Terps 68-60. If you watch that game, there was no question who the best player on the floor was. It was Jameer Young. That was a Jameer Young show. 37 points for Young. So he was terrific in that one, to say the least. They've kind of figured it out what they need to do, and that's have the ball in Jameer Young's hands as much as possible. That's what you do to win games. They're going to play a team like UCLA, and UCLA just didn't have enough firepower. Sebastian Mack, I think, is the best player, but he's still developing. I would put him on the level of a DHS, kind of pretty good, but you're still work in progress. That was kind of the best player. They're kind of hoping Adam Benoa kind of turns around for them and becomes still very young. You're seeing now a shift in college basketball with teams with all these freshmen and sophomores. They're struggling against teams like Maryland who have seniors and, not like it was a few years ago where they actually had that. So definitely a shift there as well. Now the Terps have a big game here. So they're going to play the number 1 team in college basketball, the Purdue Boilermakers. Matt Painter brings his team into College Park. Last year, Terps upset them, College Park. So they're going to have court storming again against a Purdue team. High expectation last year, but they lost in the first game of the tournament. So they're looking to go ahead and get better this year, as good as they had a great regular season. Let's see how they do in the playoffs. Just talking about the man himself, Jameer Young, 19 points. Now, these are stats as of Wednesday. So that is probably not going to count the game against Coppin that they're going to have this week. I do want to mention they are playing Coppin before they get to this one. This one is on Tuesday night. So we're recording this on Wednesday. So the next time we see, we'll go ahead and recap this game as well. So they're going to be playing Coppin on Tuesday night, and that's what the records reflect, not the Coppin game as well. I think the Bulls have another game as well. But this is on Tuesday night. This is a big one here that they're going to have. Jameer Young, the man himself, got to have the ball in his hands at all times. Fantastic stuff for Jameer Young. One of the best players, I think, in all of college basketball. DHS, Harris Smith, he's developing like his floor game. That's why I'm putting those rebounds and assists in there. Not a lot of points yet. He's doing a lot of those little things as well. So keep that in mind, I think, going forward. They kind of the year started to put the ball in his hands, take it out of Young, kind of sharing. Now they kind of, okay, let Jameer do his thing. We'll win more games. Julian Reeses have been off to a good start. More Dante Scott in the last one, but he's been really good. I think he's definitely the second best scorer in college basketball. Definitely one of the best players, period. Zach Edey. I'm still surprised the NBA let him go back to college with what they saw. No question in my mind they could play, but they don't want these type of back-to-the-basket players. Are you kidding me? This guy is phenomenal. Again this year, 24 points, 10 rebounds. So dominant. Can't do anything with Zach Edey. A little bit tougher for him, I think, it'll be in the Big Ten, but he is phenomenal. 7'3" and 7'3" and very dominant. Now, last year, I think they were kind of the idiots. These two young guys, I think, are developing now. They were looking for production from this guy, Brendan Smith, who's now a sophomore, much better this year. 13.3 points, 6.7 assists, more of a true point guard, more of a scorer when he is passing. And Fletcher Lawyer now in double figures as well. So now they're getting that complementary production to go along with the dominance of Zach Edey. So I think this will be tough for Maryland to win. I'm hoping they win again. I'm not sure if they do, if the Terps win, but I think this would be tougher. This is a better Purdue team than I think it was last year. Zach Edey was so dominant, and I think he's continuing to be dominant, but I think they're getting production from the other things. How well can Jameer Young actually go ahead and get – so Jameer Young or bust. I think this is what anytime you have the Terps play, if he can have a night like he had against UCLA, 25, 30 points, whatever, I think that is what is going to get the job done with the doctor ordered. Okay, so now we finished with college basketball, and now let's get to our baseball discussion. So definitely look at what we're talking about here. Best Orioles of all time, outfielder players of all time. So who are the greatest Orioles at top 5 of all time in the outfield? Now, it says outfield. We are going to do DH. We are going to do starting pitching. Last week, we did infield. So who are some of the best players to ever play for the Orioles as well? One other thing I do want to say before I start as well. I did post this on social media, and a lot of people were asking me. I had this question more than once, so I do want to address this here. This is one player at one position. So I had somebody ask me, why isn't Cal at third base? Well, Cal played shortstop. So I didn't put Cal at third base and shortstop. So I did want to address that as well. So one player, one position. So Cal is at one position, not two. Kind of like also in the outfield, like I could have Ken Singleton and Brady Anderson at two. I didn't have them at two. I only had one position for them. So the only one I had, I think, was player and manager is on. That's it. But like I didn't have anybody like one player, one position. So if you're at one position, you're not at any other position. Okay, so let's start this. 4 and 5, and I'm marching them, and I'm saying that together because that's what they were together for years. The left field platoon, Gary Renicky and Brother Lowe, what they used to call him, John Lowenstein, These were this together, kind of like with the Ravens, Saragusa and Adams together. I couldn't separate them pretty much. They were the left field platoon. They were as productive together as what you saw with a lot of other teams that they had. So this was productive for so many years. Lowenstein and Renicky. So I put them together 4 and 5 as a tandem, as the greatest, as some of the greatest, as the greatest left fielder that the Orioles ever had. Don Buford, outstanding stuff. Big guy. If you ever see, oh my goodness, some of those guys in the outfield, the size of this guy, plate presence. That's what I always saw with him. Guy would stand at the plate and you knew it was serious. Outstanding production for so many years in left field for the Orioles. So he is number 3. BJ Surhoff, I think it was one of the sneaky great acquisitions that the Orioles ever had. So the Orioles signed him as a third baseman. He was a top flight catcher with the Brewers, kind of moved around a lot. Mostly he played in left field. Played a couple stints with the Orioles. BJ Surhoff was just flat out a solid 300 hitter. BJ Surhoff, excellent no matter where you put him in the field, versatile, and he was an outstanding left fielder for so many years. BJ Surhoff is number 2. Number 1, here's a guy I'm actually surprised he slept on as a great Oriole. That's Brady Anderson. Brady Anderson, I think, has had as good as an Oriole career as you can have in that time, not named Cal Ripken. So that's kind of how I always saw him, one of the right hands to Cal Ripken. Great leadoff hitter for so many years. Power hitting numbers, I don't know. I mean, they were kind of, he had the one great year, bit inflated, but make no mistake, this guy was an outstanding player for many years. Brady Anderson, number 1 left fielder of all time. Devo. We just talked about Brady Anderson. Brady Anderson was one of the up-and-comers back in '89 as far as one of the guys that was supposed to come in and turn the Orioles around, one of their young players. So I remember that, and guess who wound up finishing the season in center field? It was Devo, Mike Devereaux. Mike Devereaux was everything you want in a leadoff guy. Fast, hit the ball well, hit for contact, stole bases, good in the outfield. Devo, I think, became a lot of what Brady Anderson was that year, what they expected. Took it right from him. Had a several years career, so definitely shout out to Mike Devereaux. Jackie Brand, going way back, but definitely stat-wise, he's definitely there. One of the greatest center fielders they had. I didn't go back to the pre-Browns era. Some people like when they do this, like okay, now we're not the post 1956 Orioles. Definitely Jackie Brand belongs there. Definitely check out the 60s and a lot of that stuff. You'll see Jackie Brand, outstanding. The B, Al Bummery. Al Bummery, I think one of the greatest players. I mentioned my mom's one of the favorite players during the last week. This is definitely another one, Al Bummery. Definitely a guy, spent I think it was 11 years with the Orioles, a leadoff guy. Not a leadoff type guys here. Definitely quintessential guy. Definitely had success. Won a World Series with the Orioles. Was there 10 years through the 70s. So that tail end of the run, I think, was 83 from the 60s to 83. Orioles, this guy was so instrumental in that. Al Bummery, one of the best base steals ever had. Super quick on the base path. Paul Blair, no question about it. You could argue 2 and 3, in my opinion. If somebody says Al Bummery, I don't have a problem with it too. Paul Blair at 3. Paul Blair, I think, was more of an all-around outfielder, all-around hitter, hit for more power than Bummery did. Played for a long time as well. So I definitely have Paul Blair a little bit ahead of Bummery, but not close. A little bit. Well, it is pretty close, but I have Blair a little bit ahead of him. This one was pretty decisive. Adam Jones. I think Adam Jones now is going to be this generation Cal Ripken in the sense of the ambassador for the Orioles. I'm hoping that happens. A guy that we've seen in recent years play well so many years for the Orioles. I think that trade, the Eric Bedard trade and acquiring Adam Jones, changed the whole fortunes of the losing that they endured for so many years, getting Adam Jones and that Eric Bedard trade, one of the best trades the Orioles ever made. Adam Jones, I think there, no doubt, no doubt. If maybe you view him as leadoff hitter, great power hitter, great stuff from Adam Jones throughout his whole career. Number one Orioles center fielder of all time. Trey Mancini. Man, if we had more people like Trey Mancini, we'd have a better world, and I mean that. This guy's fighting, had a very serious disease, fought through it, had a career, fought through it, was on a bad, super bad, some of those 100-loss teams. The only guy I thought belonged in the starting lineup anywhere was Trey Mancini. Trey Mancini, it's a crime that they didn't extend him, that he didn't get more money, is what he had to go through. I think Trey Mancini's in the top five. Definitely hit home runs, hit for power. I wouldn't, not in the stratosphere, not for right field. A little bit higher standard as far as home run power in right field, but definitely a guy, definitely one of these guys that had a good career, hit for power, hit 20 plus 80. Very good stuff for Trey Mancini. Good outfielder, too, in his prime. Anthony Santander, Orioles current right field. So not many current players on the roster on this list. Anthony Santander is definitely one. Only reason he's maybe not higher is injuries. That's it. He's very, very good when healthy. 20-plus home runs, 25 home runs penciling in every year. If he can stay healthy for a whole year, you look at his career stats, even despite the injuries, he's top four. He's an outstanding outfielder, throws the ball extremely well from the outfield, which is very important in right field. I love Anthony Santander. I think he's even underrated on the current roster, so definitely have him at 4. Number 3, Ken Singleton. Ken Singleton, definitely mentioning that thing about not having guys at 2 different positions. But the DH, definitely I'd have a Ken Singleton there. But he was an outstanding right fielder in the 70s and 80s for one of these first guys that I remember in that era, the early 80s, of Ken Singleton was on the team. Brother Lowe was on the team. Rick Dempsey, guys like that. Ken Singleton, tremendous right fielder for so many years for the Orioles. Nick Markakis, solid 300 hitter, period. This guy could hit at all. I mean, no question about it. The power numbers, not quite maybe, what you want in right field, kind of like Mancini, but the difference was consistently high average, right around 300, 270, at 280 every year. Did that at least 5-6 years for the Orioles. Definitely a guy who was consistent, good and right, outstanding. Nick Markakis was a tremendous player for so many years for the Orioles. But number 1 was very easy. One of the greatest Hall of Fame outfielders of all time, Frank Robinson. I think Jackie Robinson gets so much credit as well, as he should, for the barriers he broke down. But Frank Robinson was the Thunder. Frank Robinson was the guy who hit for power. Frank Robinson was the fear factor in the Orioles lineups in those years. Frank Robinson, Brooks Robinson, and Boo Powell in the middle of the order won a lot of games. No question about it. Leads every right field record as far as power, OMA, etc. Frank Robinson was fantastic, was a manager, and a smart guy too. Very sharp, Frank Robinson was as a person as well. Couple more here. DH, tough to do, so sure there be some arguments on this, but some guys actually did make it. Some guys I know they played other positions, but these guys, DH list, played a couple years, played at least one or 2 whole seasons as DH. Aubrey Huff played 2 seasons at DH over from Tampa. Some people would argue, kind of like Chris Davis, like the overall how the signing went, but he could hit. He could hit for power. That's for sure. We know what he could do. Definitely, I think a DH and definitely hit for power. That would matter to me in this. Definitely, did you hit for power? Tommy Davis actually won the award for DH as well in 72 to 75. So definitely Tommy Davis is definitely on the list. Number 4, outstanding acquisition, I thought, for him. Hits for power. Definitely, he won actually the award, so definitely shout out to him. He's at number 4. Luke Scott, a little bit longer run with the Orioles, but I have him at number 3. Luke Scott, I think, was a definitely power hitter for the O's for a couple years. Uh, Not as maybe good in the outfield, but I think he played a lot of years in DH. I think he kind of got lost in the shuffle a little bit, so he wound up at DH, and he was good there. Lee May, the guy that stepped aside for Eddie Murray at first base, so definitely he is here as well. Lee May definitely had a good second career at DH. I definitely he think is there. Excellent production from Lee May. And number one, Harold Baines. It's called the Edgar Martinez DH Award. If it wasn't called that, it absolutely could be called Harold Baines Award. Harold Baines is the name I thought of without even looking at it at DH so many years. Rumor was he played with no cartilage in the knee, bone on bone, and he hit 300 every year. That's insane. Like the fact that he was so productive, had so much power, hit for 300 average every year at that. Starting pitchers, top five is pretty easy. So I'm going to do honorable mention. Scotty McGregor kind of took over for Jim Palmer, was the best pitcher in 83 as well. Also in that 83, Dennis Martinez didn't make it, but he was really good for a number of years. Mike Boddicker kind of led that era in the 80s when those guys were gone. Boddicker was the young guy who kind of remained at the ace. Milt Pappas barely missed the list. Excellent, probably won more games than anybody not on the list, but he just didn't miss it. And Ben McDonald actually won more games than I thought he did when I actually looked at it. So shout out to Ben McDonald. Good career for him. But the five was pretty easy. Flanny was fantastic. The last pitcher to pitch in Memorial Stadium, so instrumental for so many years. All that success era, 69 to 83, Flanny was pretty much there for all of it. Flanny was pretty much there. He was there when they actually closed the stadium in 92. Good job, Mike Flanny. Mike Cuellar, top four pitcher of all time as well. Dave McNally, how good was Dave McNally? I think, look, that rotation, Palmer, Cuellar, McNally, maybe one of the greatest Oriole rotation of all time. The Moose, Mike Mussina. Of the modern era, the 90s era, there was no better than the Moose. He was one of the best pitchers in the American League. I'm shocked he still hasn't won a Cy. I was amazed that didn't happen. And the best pitcher we ever had, it's still not close. 268 wins. Jim Palmer, been with the organization, probably the greatest O's announcer of all time, color guy. Jim Palmer was on another level. There was no such thing. I think he is actually the prototype of why guys want tall guys and lean guys or whatever when they're doing pitching prospects. You want a guy like Jim Palmer. Jim Palmer, power pitcher and a finesse pitcher at the same time. Jim Palmer was fantastic. Last list here, two more. Darren O'Day is one of the best relievers of all time. Best that you could do as far as getting a guy that wasn't a closer. I thought his stats were very good. The rest of this list is closer. JJ, Jim Johnson, powerful split in his prime. Zach Britton, as good as anybody. Had success when the Orioles had success. Hey, didn't work out as a starter, became a tremendous reliever. Longevity, that's this guy, Tippy Martinez. Tippy was tremendous throughout the years. Tippy. That's the way Joe Altobelli and Earl Weaver would call for him in the ninth inning. And the greatest curveball I ever saw, Greg Olson. I'm as big a fan as all these guys. Greg Olson blew my mind when I saw him. That curveball was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Threw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, and he had a great curve. Last list, managers, Davey Johnson, Joe Altobelli, Hank Bauer, and Buck Showalter. Davey, I think it's a crime that they let him go. I think the success he had. Joe Altobelli, I think he kind of got caught up in the fact that they wanted Earl Weaver back. Hank Bauer, I thought, had a lot of success for a lot of years during the early days. Buck Showalter was around longer than anybody, about 8 years. Wasn't had a lot of management stability considering how the record has looked. And the Weave, no question, greatest winner of all time, greatest success with the Orioles of all time, Earl Weaver, the number one manager of all time. All right. Thank you. That was fun talking about the oral history. Thank you for joining us this week on the Ravery Sports Podcast. We will see you next week, and we will see you after the Ravens game.